we're still waiting on the. I need to send a message to Hardin. I'm kind of annoyed about the body cam footage thing. Can you nudge Candy Yohai? Question. It needs to stay on their ass. They're probably dragging feet to release that fucking footage until court. If that happens, by the way, and they just like are dragging feet until the it's in the case in public anyways, we'll just donate the money to whatever 501c3 or whatever that we went to. Because I can't refund it, but I can do that. By the way, Rekieta did a stream with Juju, and I was told that it wasn't very interesting, so I didn't watch it. There is clips of this on the Illicit Clips channel, but and discussion about it in the forum, but I didn't watch it. Like, I just can't stand to listen to them anymore. I'm so poisoned towards them that when I hear them talk, it's just like, I can't really. Unless I know that there's going to be something funny, I can't stand it. Honestly, I just can't stand it anymore. Rekieta has had the first motion in his case since the appellate court kicked his case back down to the district level. Randazza is still his attorney, despite some statements that Randazza had made regarding him on social media, which is the most interesting thing about this. This is docketed for, let's see, July 1st. So it should have happened. Is there any update to this? It's on Monday. I guess we don't get to hear anything about this because nothing happened. So it's just a hearing. Probably a conferencing hearing to set up the schedule for the trial. So it's probably not that interesting. The interesting thing is that it's back in motion. So Rekieta is dealing with his criminal issues regarding serious cocaine possession and negligence of the children. And now we know that the children had cocaine in their system. By the way, I got a lot of comments when I talked about Rekieta's cocaine test being positive. I had a lot of comments from people who worked in labs, actually, thanking me for showing confidence in the lab testing system. The people who commented were very confident that if the test showed that there was cocaine in her system, then she had ingested and metabolized cocaine. I was told by these people that the hair is washed thoroughly, that the sample is tested under certain conditions. If it came back positive, they would have ordered a second test. That in their professional opinion, that if Rekieta's, if it was found in a court document that the test was confident that there was a positive result for cocaine in the hair of a child, they would have thoroughly checked their paces before issuing that result, because the obvious outcome of a false positive in that situation would be extremely damaging to not only the people involved, but the child involved. So the people that responded to me saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure that they got it right, were very also very sure that they got it right. So that's it honestly doesn't look good. And when he messages me and he says that I don't know what I'm talking about, the metabolite is one that is a result of the hydrolyzing with air moisture. It can be found on any sample of cocaine. A child could be lightly dusted in cocaine just by proximity. It seems like that's a lie. Maybe that's a cope. I don't know. Maybe he wants to believe that's the case, and that he doesn't want to believe that his own daughter, his 9-year-old, ingested cocaine without his knowledge. But I will say, when I did a really deep dive into the cocaine thing, I was very curious about it. It's one of those things where it's like, I want to be informed before I make an opinion. I don't want to go out there and just bang the drum and say, like, Rekieta is such a bad man, I can't believe he did this. Like, I didn't want to do, like, the moralizing, grandstanding thing. So I read multiple studies about the presence, about how hair testing works, and specifically there was one about cocaine in children, and it was testing in Mediterranean cities, underprivileged, like a drug testing lab. And these people that were in this clinic were in there for unrelated reasons to drugs, but they were all very poor, and they just randomly tested everybody's hair there. Everybody who would consent, they would take their hair and the hair of their children. And if the parent tested positive for anything, they would sometimes test positive for cocaine, even if they didn't admit to using cocaine. And if they tested positive for cocaine, there was like a 10% chance that their children would also test positive for cocaine. But it would be, her result was a higher concentration of cocaine metabolites than any of the studies kids. So I mean, it wasn't a huge N number. It was like an N 500 or something. But it's still like a lot, like 10%. There's a like to the point where I think I said this on my first coverage of this, but it really underlines why a child protective service would test the kids to begin with. If it was unheard of that a child might be ingesting cocaine in a situation like this, then they would never test the children unless they had some kind of suspicion outside of the parents are doing it. If it never happened, they wouldn't bother. Like, what's the point of that? If out of 1 million cases of cocaine usage, one child tested positive as well, then there would be no reason for the expenditure. But there is a reason. And it's because 10% of kids, if the parents are using, also will have cocaine in their system. That's why they do it. The government's evil, but it's not that stupid. You know what I mean? That's how it comes across to me. So, yeah, it's I don't know. It's so baffling to me. And even I don't know. It makes me feel kind of like a dumbass, but even now I'm just kind of like, did he like become a retard? Did he decide to walk down the path of retardation sometime after we met? Or did I just like believe that he couldn't possibly be this fucking retarded at one point? I don't know. I guess if I was fooled by his guile, I'm in a large group of people, because 100,000 people watch Rekieta at his absolute peak. It's like, I don't know. Even now, it's like I feel like he deliberately chose this. Because I heard an expression once, and I'm quite fond of it. It's about how it was an expression about how the choices we make do have an impact on who we are, and even though it doesn't feel like it, because you make one choice, like for instance, if you're trying to commit to a diet and you diet one day and then you fall off the wagon the next, if you decide to keep off the wagon, that decides out who you are. But if you decide to start dieting again the next day, then it reinforces that positive behavior, and eventually your diet just becomes your lifestyle. But it's who you are ends up, is the end result of thousands of choices. And it makes me wonder, is Rekieta somebody who was just a bad apple that very few people saw from the onset? Or did he deliberately choose a bad path 1,000 times over multiple years to become somebody who was a bad apple? I don't know. I have a copium in my head that he wasn't always bad, and that he just chose poorly many, many times over years. So yeah, I don't know. It frustrates me because I mentioned this on stream and shit, but it's like, why do I always end up like talking to people who are retards? You're not the only one who fell for it. I know. It still doesn't feel good, though. Like, his kid has cocaine in her hair. She's a 9-year-old. She's a 9-year-old, and her brain chemistry is going to be permanently damaged by this. Like, Tetrabex, by the way, who, as we know, our listener Tetrabex, who apparently has an alcohol problem on some streams. He was explaining in the Man of the Internet thread that when he was a kid, he was diagnosed with ADHD and put on Ritalin or some kind of amphetamine ADHD treatment program when he was like a teenager, like a young teenager. And he says that probably had a negative impact on his brain development, which is believable, because if you give a child methamphetamine, and it's not technically a methamphetamine, but it is an amphetamine salt, you give them that, it's going to fuck with them. You give a child cocaine, it's going to fuck with them. All things else, everything else excluded. So it's just don't feel good, man. Just don't feel good. 11th Circuit for two says, do not be among wine bibbers or among gluttonous eaters of meat, for the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and drowsiness will clothe them with rags. Proverbs 20:20-21. Suffer Rekieta. Yeah, I mean, having an addiction is usually not a good thing.